The Power of Agile, hosted by Nagarro.
Welcome to The Power of Agile, the podcast where we explore the transformative power of Agile methodologies in the tech world. I'm your host, Gurpreet Badesh, and today's episode is the Shift Left Marathon at Admiral. We're joined by Andreas Kleinbichler from Admiral, who will share the incredible journey of their Shift Left project and how it revolutionized their testing strategy. We also have Roland Germ, our very own technical Agile coach, joining us today. Roland, you previously joined the Code and Coach Approach episode, so it would be great to learn more about the strategies used for this project. And to provide the audience with some background, Admiral Sportwetten is a leading sports betting company in Austria known for its innovative approaches and commitment to excellence in the gaming industry. Andreas Kleinbichler plays a pivotal role at Admiral as the head of portal engineering unit and has been instrumental in driving technical agility within the company, leading various initiatives, and fostering a culture of continuous improvement. So, without further ado, Roland, Andy, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Gurpreet. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Welcome. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Absolutely, Andy. And before we dive into the nitty-gritty of Shift Left and how it transformed Admiral, can you tell us a bit more about Admiral and your role there?
Yes, right now I'm working for around 16 years for Admiral. And when I joined the company 16 years ago, it was a very small development group of only 5 people. Mm-hmm. And until now, we grew up to 150 people. My role was very different all the time. I was starting as a developer, then I was a team lead of a medium-sized team, then I was enterprise architect. I was also had the role of a principal developer, and since around 3 years, I'm in the role of the head of the portal engineering unit, which is one of our 3 tribes for dedicated to develop software. Yeah.
Wow! So it sounds like you've had your hands full and taken on a fair bit of responsibility at Admiral. So, Andy, you mentioned you've been with Admiral for quite a few years now, and I'm wondering what's been your favourite part of the journey so far?
I would say there is one consistent thing that I had all these years working for Admiral. It was always a challenge, and I always had the opportunity to try out new things, and I was always working on the edge from technical point of view. And this remains from the first day until now. So that's what I really love about Admiral. Yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, it sounds like you've really grown with the company as well. So
yes, that's true. That's definitely true.
Fantastic. And today we're here to talk about one of those challenging projects, the Shift Left project. So let's dive into it and kick things off with the basics. So what exactly is Shift Left and why is it such a critical strategy in the world of software development?
With the Shift Left, we try to achieve an improvement in quality assurance by moving the testing capabilities closer to the development, so that we don't have this time dependency of we have to develop something and test it afterwards. We should start with testing and development as much as possible in parallel. And this means that we have to share or have more common understanding in test and development. We have to merge the roles somehow that they can work more in parallel and closer together.
Absolutely. And there's benefits to this, right? Because it means that you have that quicker feedback loop as well. I mean, of course, we'll go more into the benefits later, but that makes sense. And actually, fun fact, the term Shift Left comes from the idea of moving testing activities to the left on the project timeline, meaning earlier in the software development lifecycle, whereas traditionally, like you mentioned, testing was conducted at the end, right? I also recently read that studies show that fixing a defect found in the early stages of development is a lot cheaper than fixing it after the software has already been deployed. So sometimes it can even cost up to 100 times more if the defect is found in production in comparison to if it's found sooner.
Yeah, and an idea of the shift left is the prevention of defects at all through the collaboration between testers, business people, and developers together. They define more detailed the terms where we decide that we can accept the software.
Right,
So
without over-engineering.
Without over-engineering.
Okay.
And also developers have more quality in mind, more in mind what needs to be achieved.
Yeah.
And in collaboration, testers and developers already start testing together. And this prevents you to come up with bugs at all. Because bugs mean somebody tests it, somebody reports it, and throws it back to the development team. And that's what costs so much time.
It's the back and forth, yeah.
Right.
But also the whole you're developing with the end in mind,
right?
But you haven't tested along the way.
It's also the idea that we are going to deliver software or a product to, which means it's not just coded; it's delivered to the customer.
Yeah.
And this is the real mindset change.
Okay, this is going to be an interesting talk. So then let's speak specifically to the case of Admiral. Yeah. What were the main reasons why Admiral decided to change its testing strategy and adopt a shift-left approach?
We made a massive transition a couple of years ago, an agile transition, which was also deeply involved the Nagarro supporting us. And within these transitions, we established a 2-weekly release cycle. So this was totally new for us. Earlier, we released a couple of months, and now we're releasing every 2 weeks. And additionally, at the same time, we are also growing. We get new products, we get new markets, we have more customers, we have more developers working on the system, and we have to keep this bi-weekly release train. Yeah, we call it release train. And in order to make this possible, we needed to be quicker in testing, to finding bugs earlier within the sprint, not afterwards, to get immediately feedback to the developers to make this possible at all.
So what we're saying is you allow the developers 2 weeks to develop.
Yes.
And then after that 2 weeks, everything they've developed is tested. And then the loop starts again. So any defects found need to be addressed before new iterations of that development or subsets.
To be maybe more precise, have 2 weekly sprints, and in these 2 weekly sprints they are developing the features within the teams.
Okay.
And after the end, the definition of done of a feature is that it is already tested until a certain environment, the test environment. And after we finish the sprint, we are moving the difference from this test environment into a staging environment where we are doing a regression test of the whole system, and then we are releasing it. But when this regression test starts, already for the developers, the next sprint already started. So they are working already on the next features.
Right.
And so, let's say roughly spoken, at the middle of the sprint, you have the release of the previous sprint. Yeah. So that's how it's gonna work.
Yeah.
But it's crucial that with the end of the sprint, the feature is already tested and also automated, so that it can make that we can put it into the regression.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, that sounds like quite a comprehensive set of tasks, right? Which would, in my head at least, I'm thinking it would require a certain team structure, certain level of coordination and precision. But we'll get more into that afterwards. Before we go any further, Roland, what was your role within this project?
So my role was, at the beginning of the project, we started a discussion how we can decrease this lead time, the existing lead time. and then we came up with the idea of shift left. I remember also one of the goals was we want to go into continuous delivery, continuous deployment. It's one of the long-term goals. So what we need to do to start this? And then during the setup discussions, I was already involved, and then we was involved also in setting up the whole project together with Andy and the team.
Mm-hmm. And just for our non-technical audience, right? When you talk about continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment, can you just quickly speak to the differences between those?
Continuous integration is for me that we are frequently building software on some kind of software. So developers finish their tasks, and then the software is built on a centralized system. So we need tools for that, and then we get fast feedback for the developers. Usually these pipelines contains the build, the compilation, and the packaging and unit testing.
Right.
One step further would be continuous delivery, where we are going to automate also the installation process. And additionally, we also can automate some additional tests like integration tests, system tests, different kinds of test automations usually added. But still, we are deploying it on a test system, and there's no automated releasing included.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So still there's a decision by business usually to have by a release manager, for example. He decides or she decides this software is good enough, so we're going to install it, deploy it to our release system into production. And continuous deployment means that each and every commit triggers this pipeline and it's also going to release the product into production.
So continuous delivery is the end goal in this case.
Deployment or delivery. This is the question.
Yeah.
Do you really want to deploy your software automatically with every change?
Yeah, true.
Or do you want to stack some changes, gather them together and say, well, to something, a huger feature, which then business decides this makes sense now to be deployed together.
Right, okay. Grouping it.
Some kind of grouping. But in this continuous delivery, usually you have already all the processes adapted, so deployment might become possible. In my opinion, deployment is more a decision of business. Does it make sense that every change is going to be deployed to production?
Right, okay. Yeah, because there could be certain features that are developed which intertwine with another feature, and so it makes sense to release it all at once. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And so then let's speak about the transformation journey specifically. What techniques did you use to drive this transformation at Admiral? So Roland, if you can speak on behalf of the techniques used by Nagarro and Andy.
I think the first most important part was to identify the people who want to be involved. Right? So you need to set up some kind of project setup, and one of the techniques is that you need to think about initiatives which drives the change. So you need a change team, and then you need these initiatives which then needs to be somehow, so you need to set up a structure, an organizational structure where you can then break down into smaller stories which can be delivered by the teams again. So they're going to be involved.
So breaking it up into bite-sized chunks. Yeah.
I think then also what was very important was to identify the skills which are needed for the future.
Yeah.
Right. And also to introduce the new processes. Like so we shift left also. Usually, if you talk about shift left, usually often also PDDs mentioned, behavior-driven development, which is special technique where you just identify the examples, the scenarios very early together. So they are called three amigos: the tester, the developer, and the product owners. And well, we introduced this process also to the teams.
I like that, the three amigos.
So the initiative could be, for example, we want to establish PDD, and then you need to you break it down, right? The first package might be, well, select a team, one team, try it out,
right.
Set up workshops, help them, coach them, and then.
I'm wondering, what do you do if you identify? So you mentioned earlier about identifying the skills required. Yeah, if that's not present, what would we do? Over to you, Andy.
Basically, maybe the most important thing was to change a bit the culture and to have this change into the mindset, because we had the situation, which is a very good situation, that the testers and developers were together in one team.
Okay.
But they worked more or less separated from each other. The developers did not exactly know how their changes are tested, and the testers did also not understand how the system is developed, which service is affected here or there.
Right.
And we had to bring those two worlds together. So this was the first step into the shift left, and for both sides this was something new. They had to really merge together and find a closer way of collaboration.
Okay.
This was the biggest problem, was to finding a tool where both can work with each other.
Right.
There was, for testers, we had a tool in place that allows test automation without coding. This tool was somehow limited, also expensive, yeah. And on the other hand, we had the developers who coded unit tests.
Okay.
So we've then decided, after proper evaluation and alignment meetings with putting all people together, to give a try with SpecFlow, which is a tool where you have to code, but there is also a strong business attempt in it, because you are specifying your test cases in Germ language, and you can work very business oriented in this way. So you can do behavior driven development.
Right.
And this gave them the first area of sharing something together. Yeah? Having just this Gherkin language in place helped us to do so.
So it encouraged that collaboration between the two. I mean, even
Exactly,
though they were technically working together, it seems like they were in silos, and then this brought them together.
And this pulled them together, and there, where I want to come to your question, what you initially asked me, there we have now the problem of the skills. Yeah, we have the testers who are not really involved into coding, and then we have the developers who are also not really involved into writing good test cases from a business point of view. And both sides had to learn, and we made a couple of boot camps supported by Nagarro, and we also shifted afterwards to internal trainings for this to keep on track for a longer time here. But this was maybe one of the most important things. So I think, Roland, what do you want to say something to this?
Yeah, because as mentioned, we identified one tool for both sides, for both roles. And now developers were able to rerun tests locally also. And on the other side, testers had to learn how to code those tests.
Right.
So the test automation changed completely, and we skilled them up in Gherkin, SpecFlow tooling, and also in C# and .NET. So you need a basic understanding, a little more than a basic understanding, to automate this kind of tests.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you need also to understand the APIs you're going to invoke from a tester point of view. And on the other side, the other advantage was that developers could support here easily and quickly.
Absolutely.
Because they have the awareness of tooling. On the other side, as Andy mentioned, the testers bringing the tester skills, how to group tests, scenarios, and all together under the hood of BDD was a great idea, great success story.
Excellent. I mean, it does sound like you this played a huge part in that transformation process. Um, this is obviously, Andy, you mentioned one of the challenges, right? What with the development and testing teams. How did the teams actually adapt to this change?
Most of the teams liked it because it was clear that, although it was clear that this is a hard step and this requires a lot of change, you immediately saw the difference it made in the culture, that people were close together, and we also applied a lot of pair programming between developer and tester, and this sharpened the mindset, because the developer is in this pair programming session for coding, doing his part as just making it run and finding a good solution, and the tester participating in the session is about having a well-defined Gherkin language, taking care that the business is covered. So we have these two roles, and this was a great experience for most of the people, but also, of course, not for everyone. Sometimes you still had some doubts, but I would not say that we have this today. For some people, it took a bit longer to really get the benefit. But now, if they see how fast we can run the tests and how fast everyone can get feedback from his or her changes, they are really all convinced now that this was the right direction.
Absolutely. It's always the case when something is kind of in action and completed, they see the actual added value and the benefits. But prior to that, getting the original buy-in is always the difficult part.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, if they see that the collaboration works so much more better, of course they're going to get on board.
Yeah, and after all, it makes also more fun to work together. People get more motivated, at least, right?
Yeah.
So you need a lot of patience for the whole project. So it's about 2 years now, or 3 years already. So just to give you an outlook, that's not something you start today and will be changed next month. So
yeah, which would have led me on to my next question. So I was going to ask this. That is 3 years in total from start to finish, or was that 3 years just getting, because earlier you mentioned about upskilling the team as well in different areas. How long did that part take?
So the upskilling part, I would say we have finished after 6 months or something like that.
Okay.
You need to consider we had a lot of teams. I think it was about 9 teams or 10 teams.
Okay.
And I also remember some stories like that the product owners also were very convinced of the idea, right? So there was engagement from everywhere. And I remember product owners telling me, well, this approach BTT with the examples, I like it because it makes it much more clear for us what we're going to deliver. And so it was very important that everybody was engaged. Not just testers, developers, also the business.
And they say that's where it should start, right? You should have that buy-in from the business, from the top down, just because then it's change that's more likely to stick. If you start the other way around, and you haven't got the buy-in.
Yeah, especially if you think about the long term of the story, right? You need to have somebody who knows about, who or she is patient, right? And management, which is patient, can support you. You need this kind of support, otherwise you will fail, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and the consistency, right? So making sure that whatever is implemented, whatever change is implemented, continues, right? And to make sure, like one-off cases don't happen where it's like now become a 3-4 week cycle, for example. Just sticking to that bi-weekly cycle that you mentioned.
And we had somebody who was convinced from the beginning, Andy, right?
Yeah.
No, I can really only underline this. I was also working in this setup before I became the head of very long as a developer, and I definitely always worked closely together with the QAs, but this was an exception, This was not among the whole tribe. This was just between people who are long in the company. I was there 13 years in the company at the time, and the testing colleague I worked with was 16 years, and we did everything together. I coded at the same time when he was writing the tests. Okay. I created a mock for him. He could start writing the tests, and I created the code. And this worked out so well that I was definitely convinced that it makes a lot of sense and will bring a big improvement if we spread this out. If we get more and more people working in this way.
Absolutely. And I think that's also a really good point that you mentioned, right? Because you was with the company for so long, sometimes you're better able to see the issues and you know exactly the parts which need fine-tuning, whereas somebody who probably hasn't worked in that role probably doesn't see the day-to-day issues that you might have.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, great. I mean, it sounds like Nagarro was really a trusted advisor in this journey. And and also it seems like Admiral was a great support. They had
It was also challenging for us.
Yeah.
And it was a huge challenge, and it still is, right? It's a journey, right? And you started asking, I think it will never end, right? And I also like the idea of Admiral in their DNA always to improve. Yeah. Not to stop.
I think these days you can't really stop now. You have to keep continuing. I think the moment you stop, there's a bit of an issue. We're in this day and age where we have to keep innovating and moving with the times. COVID showed us this. Yeah.
We have also to mention here that we have a long tradition. Admiral and Nagarro working together. It did not just start in the Shift Left project. We earlier had always a lot of trainings with test-driven development, with Agile programming.
Right.
Then we have also teams in daily working for us since 10 years or maybe longer. So we definitely had this trust level when we started this difficult project.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That's the feedback we like to hear. And looking back, right? So looking back on the project now, what would you say were the key lessons learned?
Yeah, I would say one of the most important lessons, maybe for those who might believe this is also a solution for them or want to think about going in the same direction, is that you cannot get it fast. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You have to really do small steps, but don't forget to celebrate, because this is maybe the issue, that you make progress, but you don't recognize it because it's only a couple of small progress. But if you take time after a longer period, after a certain of months, and if you remember how was it 6 months ago, then you are aware of the difference, and then you know it's correct. So this is the way how you should think about this kind of projects, and we are still on improving. This is never finished. This is just a direction you want to go with, and you will always, as long as you develop, there will always be the possibility to improve this.
This is simply a pit stop, right? But you're still continuing, and you're going to carry on.
I also believe that breaking it down at the beginning with few initiatives, tracking them, and also tracking the progress and adapting. Then again, second, what could be the next step? What would us help now after 1 month? And then to go on and break it down again. I think this kind of continuous progress. It's also some kind I would say Agile project management, maybe, right?
I was just about to say, kind of
but
goes
on a higher level, right? It was on a higher level, then we break it down, and then we also involve the teams very early in every step. I think this was also one of the success criteria. Yeah,
but like you mentioned, the adaptability, the flexibility part, right? Seeing what works, seeing what doesn't.
It wasn't a project planned from the beginning, right? So we planned for 1 or 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
We identified at the beginning small steps like the evaluation of tools
Mm-hmm.
or integrating them in the pipeline. And then maybe scaling up some people, identifying teams, controlling, looking what have we achieved, adapt maybe the actions, and repeated it.
So start with the small changes.
Yes. And as Andy mentioned already, celebrate them.
Yeah,
Yes.
this was a great point.
So marketing or advertising what you have achieved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, keeping, by celebrating the small wins here, you keep the team morale up as well.
Exactly, yeah.
It's almost like, for them, it's like, yes, we're working towards something, and there is some positive coming from it, as opposed to saying at the end of year 3, we did it.
Yeah. And maybe finally, I would also add here what Andy mentioned before, this kind of style of dojos or mobs and pair programming, where people of different roles work together on the same issue, on the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This, in German we would say, hat zusammengeschmolzen. So they stick together, right? Somehow, right?
Yeah.
They have the same goal, a small goal, and they're working on the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think this generated a lot of traction.
Okay.
So there's some control and traction from the top.
Yeah.
But on the other side, we need to involve people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And both needs to fit together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And if you could do it differently, what would you do differently?
Yeah, maybe one of the lessons learned, which would maybe lead me into adapting a few changes, if I would do it again, is to not underestimate the impact on the rest of the company. Because all these changes we did, they have an impact on our infrastructure. This is totally unusual that the QAs need access to a database for reading, to maybe browsing log files, and this was all in place there because this is what our QAs did.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you have also an impact on the recruiting, because you are now looking for people who want to work this way, and this you have to ask a new developer, hey, what do you think about testing?
Mm-hmm.
Is this in your mind to write a spec flow test? And at the same time, you have to ask a QA if he or she is willing to code a bit,
Yeah.
And that's the point. So it has a big influence on the rest of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of overlook that sometimes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought of that, but yeah, it changes your, from an infrastructure point of view, like you mentioned, right? You have to provide certain permissions.
Yes.
Then it's almost like running it past IT. Hey, what kind of rule sets do we have? And then that the policies and the structure changes in itself.
And the mindset. And there's a new mindset. So you're looking for people, you want to hire people which have the same mindset already in mind. You don't want to upskill them again, right? You don't want to change something. Somebody you want to hire. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a completely different strategy now in the hiring process.
Absolutely.
And also one other example, if you think of the tooling, you need now the QAs need IDEs. They need Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, Writer, whatever is necessary because they have to code.
Yeah. This
is also a change. You need more licenses, and other tools.
But then you could do the whole cost benefit analysis, right? And then it's like, despite them needing more licenses, the benefit in the long term.
Yes, exactly. This is something what you can make visible very easily. Yeah. And it has the benefit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, it sounds great. So, Andy, can you highlight the main steps you took and the current status of your testing strategy?
Yes, sure. I think the main step for us was to specify a proper testing pyramid for us, to really find areas where it is totally clear how those are tested. and that we rely still heavily on unit tests. Then we have the next level with our spec flow tests, and then we have a third level which is our end-to-end tests, and that we really align together and that we find a common understanding among all teams in which layer are we testing what and how much and when.
So there are clear rules now and clear definition of the tooling, of the persons involved, the roles involved, and also about the amount of tests we want to cover there, right? Which kind of tests we want to cover for each of these layers, which aligns with the architecture of the software of Admiral.
Right.
And that was quite one important step also to be able to define this together with the teams.
With the teams.
With the teams, right.
And was that done like earlier on in the process, or was it done as the kind of process was?
So as I mentioned before, it was one of these initiatives, and there were a lot of issues to discuss with the teams, especially with testing data and how to communicate when you're using other services, mocking services and whatever. But finally, I think there was a good solution, which was a solution aligned with everybody and by all teams.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if everybody pitched in for this solution as well.
And everybody brought in his concerns or her concerns, and we discussed and tried to solve them.
Okay.
Or address them at least, but you cannot accept everything.
And again, for me, that goes back to the whole collaboration element, bringing the team in early on, which, Roland, we kind of discussed in the podcast that me and you did, about bringing them in as early as possible and getting that buy-in, you know? So that's a lot of progress then. And my final question for you then, Andy, is what's next for Admiral? Are there any future plans or new ideas that are on the horizon?
Yes, definitely. We have a lot of new ideas. One is to bring coded automation also for UI testing. We are looking forward to using Playwright there, so that we have also the possibility to write coded tests for UI. And this aligns perfectly with our basic architecture, that we want to move away from the WPF, WinForms applications on our IoT devices and go more into the web development, where we can use this kind of testing tools very efficiently. And another, let's say, vision is to bring all our test data together. We have now test results from unit tests, we have results from spec flow tests, we have then results from Playwright, and also from end-to-end tests, and also from manual testing, which is also still necessary for us. We have cache devices, there is human interaction, you cannot mock everything. So bringing all these results from these different stages and levels of testing together and get an overview, how is the health of the system, this is our next challenge.
I see. Okay, so a lot of interesting stuff happening, and the message that I'm getting here is continuously refining what's in place already. That's excellent. Okay, Andy, thank you so much for sharing Admiral's shift left transformation journey. It's really inspiring to see how agile methodologies and a shift left approach can drive such a significant improvement. So thank you so much. And finally, let's quickly recap and leave our listeners with some key takeaways.
So my key takeaway is shift left is the process of bringing testing activities from the end of our software development cycle to the beginning, include them. And the change is something which is a marathon. It's you need to change and adapt so many pieces. And also it's important to think that this process, it's an ongoing change process, is always different for every company. For every context. You need to think about the context in the organizations where you're going to develop, implement this change, and take those parts at the beginning, initiatives which change at most at the beginning, which bring the most effective ones, and then adapt to that.
Right, okay.
And it's a marathon. It's really a long time, a long journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andy, how about you?
Yeah, I would say just keep on improving into this project. So just stay focused on the small steps, as Roland already described. And although you will have some minor setbacks, just see those as, let's say, as feedback you get and as possibilities to improve, to learn something. This is the way you have to see this. And if you then compare time after time, you will see that you improved a lot.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also be always empathic for those who are deeply affected by the project, because it's really a change in working manners and in habits that are, let's say, have been there sustained for years. And you have to give the people the time to adapt, and also you have to communicate with them to really find out what are their fears and wishes, needs.
Yeah, really try to understand the situation.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's also, to count the small wins and actually, stop and look at that, because we see it far too often actually in the projects that we work on. It's always once the project is complete, it's like, okay, now we're here, right? Whereas if you enjoy the process, it's more worthwhile as well. So thank you for that. Thank you both for joining. And for our listeners, if you're considering similar projects or need expert support with your agile transformation, don't hesitate to reach out to us via email at aqt@nagarro.com. Until next time, keep embracing the power of agile.